Fish live in water. Sounds obvious, but it means they're constantly profoundly affected by it.
And their behavior, it's not random. It's a direct reflection of their internal state, how they're coping with that environment.
It's basically an early warning system, isn't it?
Precisely. You can often see behavioral shifts, changes in swimming, feeding, schooling, long before you see, say, physical signs of disease or stress. It's a real-time indicator.
A whole new era of communication in the global aquaculture industry is coming. Now you have the brightest minds in aquaculture right in your pocket. And what's best? You can listen to all of them while driving to a farm, traveling, or running errands. It's never been this good, and it's never been this simple. Welcome to the Aquaculture Podcast Show, the first AI-based podcast in aquaculture, where you'll find cutting-edge insights in everything that's working in aquaculture, nutrition, health, and production.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the nitty-gritty of water quality, specifically how it connects, often in surprising ways, to fish behavior in aquaculture.
It's a fascinating link. Water isn't just there. It actively shapes how fish act, how they interact. Everything, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're looking at this through a lens that's crucial for anyone in the field, how these water parameters affect fish well-being and operational productivity.
Right. Our goal here is to pull out the key insights, understand how these, well, seemingly basic factors are actually driving behavior in ways that directly impact you.
Ways that matter for growth, for health, for the success of the whole operation.
Exactly. Water's not passive background noise. It's an active force.
Okay, so let's unpack the core idea first.
Yeah.
Fish live in water. Sounds obvious, but it means they're constantly profoundly affected by it.
And their behavior, it's not random. It's a direct reflection of their internal state, how they're coping with that environment.
It's basically an early warning system, isn't it?
Precisely. You can often see behavioral shifts, changes in swimming, feeding, schooling, long before you see, say, physical signs of disease or stress. It's a real-time indicator.
So let's start with some physical parameters. Temperature, for instance. That's a big one.
Huge. Fish are ectotherms, right? Their body temperature mirrors the water.
Which directly controls their metabolic rate, their whole energy engine.
Exactly. How fast they process energy. But it actually changes how they move.
Like their swimming speed and style.
Yeah, tailbeat frequency, velocity, things like that. And interestingly, even social dynamics, like how tightly they school.
I saw the Bellman mention lower temperatures can actually increase school cohesion. That feels a bit backward.
Well, it seems tied to water viscosity. Colder water is slightly denser, more viscous.
Oh, okay.
Which subtly changes the hydrodynamics. It might actually be energetically easier or more stable for them to maintain position closer together in slightly thicker water.
Interesting. And warmer temps.
Can boost activity? Sure. More exploration, maybe more courtship behaviors because they have more energy available. But
There's always a but.
right, it comes at a cost. Higher overall energy use and potentially less efficient feeding if it gets too warm. They burn through reserves faster.
So temperature is dialing up or down their energy use and shaping their group dynamics.
What about turbidity, water clarity?
Turbidity is all about vision. For many fish, sight is absolutely crucial. Finding food, spotting danger.
Navigating, even finding mates sometimes. Right?
Exactly. Visual cues are key. And when the water gets murky,
Things get difficult, like for predators trying to hunt.
yeah, the example of largemouth bass struggling to forage in turbid water really highlights that. If you can't see your prey, you can't eat efficiently.
Do fish adapt? Can they switch senses?
They do. They often compensate by relying more heavily on smell, on olfaction.
Another but. It's a workaround, not a perfect solution. High turbidity still disrupts social interactions. It can increase anxiety behaviors, and it masks those important visual signals for mating or dominance. It's a compromise.
Okay, so physical factors like temp and clarity are actively messing with basic behaviors. Let's shift to the chemical side. Invisible stuff dissolved in the water. Dissolved oxygen DO. Can't live without it.
Absolutely fundamental for homeostasis, keeping their internal system stable. When DO drops, that's hypoxia, you see immediate behavioral shifts.
Towards what? Saving energy.
Exactly. Things like burst and coast swimming, short bursts, then gliding, and you might see them at the surface more. Aquatic surface respiration, trying to get that slightly richer oxygen layer right at the top.
Literally gasping for air.
In a way, yes. And it has wider impacts, too. Low DO messes up predator-prey dynamics badly.
How so?
It can dull their senses, make them less aware. Crucially, it slows down their fast start response, that quick burst they need to escape a predator.
Makes them vulnerable.
Definitely. And even within a school, low DO can force them to spread out, maybe break apart, as fish search for pockets of better oxygen. It's a real stress response.
Wow, okay. What about salinity? Salt levels.
Changes in salinity mean osmoregulatory stress. Fish have to work hard, expend energy, just to keep their internal salt and water balance right.
And that shows up in behavior how? Less activity.
Reduced activity is common, yeah. Or if they can, they might try to move to areas with more favorable salinity, migrating away from the stress.
And there's a specific impact on smell mentioned.
Yes, and this is critical. Higher salinity seems to impair their olfactory sense, their sense of smell.
Which they use for pretty much everything important.
Finding food, navigating, detecting predators, finding mates, recognizing kin. It's huge. If their smell is compromised, possibly due to changes right down at the gene expression level in the olfactory system, their ability to respond to vital environmental cues is reduced.
That's major. It affects survival behaviors like avoiding predators or even finding their way home if they migrate using scent.
Absolutely. Salinity isn't just about physiological strain. It can cut them off from essential information.
Okay, moving to pH, acidity. Problems arise when it deviates, especially gets too acidic.
Definitely. Acidification can directly damage the olfactory neurons themselves, the smell receptors, and it can degrade the chemical cues in the water before the fish even detects them.
A double hit.
Right. So it interferes with feeding, predator avoidance, homing, all those smell-dependent behaviors.
And the result is poor choices.
Altered taste perception, yeah, and impaired decision-making. They just can't process the chemical information correctly. And what's worrying is some evidence suggests this olfactory damage can persist even after the pH goes back to normal.
So the stress has lasting effects. That's important for management.
Very. The impact isn't always reversible quickly.
All right, last group on the chemical side. Inorganic nitrogen compounds. Ammonia, nitrate. Common issues in aquaculture.
Yeah, these are known disruptors of neurophysiology. They affect the nervous system.
Leading to what kind of behaviors?
Things like increased anxiety, jumpiness, reduced feeding, and seeing schools break down, become fragmented.
How do they actually cause that?
Well, ammonia seems to specifically target the GABAergic system in the brain. That's a key inhibitory system. Disrupting it can lead to overexcitation.
Like more aggression, erratic swimming.
Exactly. Nitrite's main issue is interfering with oxygen transport in the blood. It causes methemoglobinemia, so the blood can't carry oxygen properly, leading to a kind of internal suffocation. And nitrate can mess with hormone systems, the endocrine system, which adds another layer of behavioral disruption.
So it's hitting their nerves, their blood oxygen, their hormones, all showing up as abnormal behavior. Complex stuff.
Very interconnected.
Okay, let's touch on some newer challenges. Emerging pollutants. Microplastics are everywhere now.
They are. And in fish, they accumulate physically in gills, in the gut, causing mechanical stress, inflammation.
And behaviorally.
Disrupts swimming, makes foraging harder, can break down schooling. And chronic long-term exposure looks like it might alter brain chemistry, neurotransmitter levels.
Leading to things like
behavioral syndromes, more anxiety, less effective risk assessment, basically making them stressed and maybe less cautious than they should be.
not good for survival. And crude oil, if there's contamination.
Crude oil, especially its polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, is bad news for olfactory and neural function.
Again, hitting that sense of smell.
Yeah.
And the brain.
Yes. So you see altered anti-predator responses, fish becoming less efficient at feeding, delays in things like courtship, and larval stages are particularly vulnerable, higher death rates, weird exploratory patterns.
Okay, so we've run through physical factors, chemical factors, even pollutants. The common thread seems to be that all these aspects of water quality hit core behaviors. Swimming, schooling, feeding, aggression, exploration, predator response, reproduction.
And that's the critical link back to aquaculture practice. These behavioral changes aren't just side notes. They're directly tied to production outcomes. They affect your results.
Right. How do these behaviors translate into metrics that matter on the farm?
Well, take schooling again. If fish are stressed and schooling breaks down, they waste energy. That's energy not going into growth.
Makes sense.
Altered feeding. That's maybe the most obvious one. Stressed fish, or fish that can't properly sense food due to chemical interference, just don't eat as well.
Which means slower growth rates and a poorer feed conversion ratio, FCR. Cost you more in feed for less fish weight.
Exactly. Increased aggression, maybe from ammonia. That means injuries, more disease susceptibility, higher mortality. It directly reduces your final biomass yield.
And reproduction. Critical for hatcheries.
Incredibly sensitive. Courtship, spawning. These complex behaviors get disrupted easily by stressors. So for breeding success, nailing the water quality is non-negotiable.
It really paints a picture of behavior as a constant readout of environmental quality.
It absolutely is. Monitoring behavior should be seen as a key diagnostic tool. Watching how your fish are grouping, feeding, acting. It can give you early warning of a developing water quality issue, often before your sensors pick it up or before fish look physically unwell.
Allows you to be proactive, not just reactive.
Precisely.
And thinking about solutions, where does this lead?
Well, obviously, robust water quality control systems are essential, automated systems maintaining optimal parameters. But maybe more interestingly, it points towards things like behavior-driven system design.
Meaning?
Designing tanks, flows, feeding strategies specifically with fish behavior in mind. Understanding how the environment shapes their actions and engineering systems to minimize stress and promote natural, productive behaviors. That's key for sustainable, high-efficiency aquaculture.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really underscores how tightly woven fish behavior is with their aquatic environment. Water quality isn't just a backdrop. It actively shapes everything from basic biology right up to the production numbers that matter.
And truly understanding these connections, environment-driving behavior, behavior-indicating environment, is fundamental for the future of aquaculture. It's about creating systems that optimize for the fish's needs, informed by how they act.
Which leads to a final thought for you, our listener. If behavior is such a sensitive indicator and is itself shaped by the environment, could we move beyond just using behavior to spot problems?
Could we potentially use these behavioral cues in a more dynamic way? Perhaps as part of a positive feedback loop where the fish's own behavior helps to fine-tune and optimize their environment in real time, pushing towards peak welfare and peak performance. Something to think about.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow the Aquaculture Podcast Show on your favorite platform. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook to stay updated on the latest episodes and industry insights. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.